Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense. I have a Bitcoin / altcoin cryptocurrency market update video for May the 11th. Also going to talk about some stocks in the video, but before I do, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you have not already, make sure you join the Patreon for just $7 a month. That gives you access to more frequent updates and also helps to support the channel. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about today is actually, I always start off with, it seems like I start off with a lot of doom and gloom. So I want to talk about some positives today. EOS, right? If you guys have not seen this, EOS is a coin that I would highly recommend you research, not invest in, right? That's up to you. Research this coin. This is actually, or it's actually a token, I guess. Yeah, maybe it's a coin, right? I think a token is built on somebody else's blockchain. A coin is their own, whatever. EOS is something that I invested in back in 2017. Bought more of it in 2018, bought more of it in 2019, and actually did buy more of it in 2020 as well, when it was down around a couple of bucks, right? This is one that I have believed in. It's a long-term investment, although it's been frustrating. It hasn't gone up as much as some of the other coins, right? I have kind of stayed true to it and held the majority of my EOS. Now, I normally don't talk a lot about individual altcoins, but the reason I'm talking about this one is because if you guys have not heard, I believe it's Block One, the company behind EOS, is actually going to be launching their own cryptocurrency exchange. So you can see here over on Cointelegraph that they've secured funding for a $10 billion EOS-based crypto exchange platform. Now, when I think about exchange tokens, I think about things like BNB that went from 50 cents in 2017 to nearly $700 in 2021. I think of things like FTT, which is FTX's coin or token, whatever you want to call it, and it went from under $1, I believe it was, last year, all the way up to last I looked, it was 60 or 70 bucks, right? EOS is one of those things where I first got interested in it just because it was new, and I was a new investor, and I thought, oh, it's under $1, this looks exciting. And then as I did more research on it, the reason I kept buying it is because I realized that EOS was a contender, and we don't know who's going to win this battle, but they were a contender for the quote-unquote Internet 3.0. And what that basically means is a lot of people believe that in the future there will be what's called dApps, basically apps built on the blockchain. And there will be maybe multiple blockchains or maybe one main blockchain, who knows, but these apps will be built on top of these blockchains, and EOS is one of those blockchains who is kind of contending for that. This is a very layman's understanding, so please do your own research, like I said. But yeah, this is one that I'm invested in, and obviously this is had an extraordinarily good day today. It's up, last I looked, over 40% just today since this announcement, right? So you can go check this out. They did have some investors from people like Peter Thiel and Mike Novogratz. I don't really know how to say his name. Hopefully I'm not murdering that. But the guy that's been bullish on crypto ever since I got started, even in 2018. Unfortunately, he never changed his bullish outlook. A lot of people were. He was talking about eventually the institutional money would start FOMOing in, and so a lot of people were afraid to sell, and that was a bummer. But eventually, he was right. Those institutions are coming around. So check out this article if you like. It's pretty neat. One thing that I love about EOS today is it makes such a perfect example of how people will say, news moves the market, and it does in a certain, in certain ways. I agree with that. But the reality is you can still predict these moves in the charts, right? And I'm not going to go through the entire setup, but one of my proprietary setups actually came in on EOS last night on the candle close, right? And without walking through the whole setup, I can show you what it would have looked like, risk reward. It would have been an entry on the close of this candle with a stop down at the bottom of this tail, 14.7% stop, and a 28, roughly 29% profit target, just like that. That's what the trade looked like. Enter here, stop here, profit target here. So anybody that took that trade is now sitting in profit and can ride this as long as they want to, right? So without walking through the whole setup, one thing I can show you is some very simple stuff, right? How many times on this channel have I talked about golden pockets and how important they are, and how previous to this cycle, Bitcoin normally followed these same rules, but this cycle has been completely different. Altcoins, however, have been following these rules. Altcoins have really been easier to trade in this cycle than Bitcoin, right? So look at this. It had this huge pump, right? Starting back a few weeks ago in April, it was down at $4.51, pumped all the way up to $13.29, and then had this massive sell-off. I mean massive. This was pretty brutal, right? I was griping a lot about this to my friends, like this damn coin is doing it to me again, right? But fortunately, I didn't panic sell, right? So it dropped 40.5%, tagged this golden pocket, the 61.8 perfectly, and boom, bounce. So from yesterday's low until today's high, it's up 74.97%. From yesterday's low until the current price, up nearly 70%. And again, from yesterday's close, which is where the setup actually fired at, it's currently up about 44%, meaning for every $1,000 somebody put into this coin yesterday, they're now up $440. You know, this is the kind of trade that a trader could, you know, if they're trading with a large enough budget, I mean, this might pay all their bills for the entire month, just this one trade. So these are pretty awesome, and this is definitely one that I would look at. Again, I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm full disclosure, I own quite a bit of it, and I'm telling you to go research it, right? Just look into it. The other big news that broke today, which was also really good for me, was OMG. OMG is one of my top 5 holdings. I put a very large investment into this, or what I consider a very large investment, back in 2017 and 2018. And today they did announce that they're doing their test net, right? One thing about OMG that's really interesting is they're trying to solve some of these scaling problems with Ethereum, and theoretically they can supposedly, you know, I don't know that this is realistic, but supposedly they can handle up to 1 million transactions per second, whereas Ethereum can only handle 14. So we'll see. The news has definitely, you know, been good. People seem to be excited about it. If we go over and look at how OMG is performing today, it's up from its close yesterday about 18%, right? So a really big day on EOS. And same thing on this one. This one's pretty brutal to me. You know, ran all the way up to over $15 and then did have a nearly 40% pullback. So that had me a little concerned. But we'll see. My major problem with OMG right now, guys, is this really a bounce that's going to come up and hit this pocket and then move down from there, right? It doesn't seem to have the same momentum that EOS does. So especially with this huge selling volume right here, it makes me a little bit nervous, but it is one of my long-term investments. And it did also hit, look at this, it did also hit that golden pocket almost perfectly yesterday. So the setup didn't fire on this. One of my proprietary setups did not fire on this one like it did EOS, but this is one that you could, you know, take a trade off of even without setups that I'm talking about. In the other EOS's case, there's still legit reasons to take a trade here, right? It didn't quite get to the 61.8, but it did come down and basically test this zone back here, what I would call, you know, supply flip demand. And since it didn't cut through that, a person could, again, take a trade there, put a stop loss down at the bottom of the tail, have about a 13% profit target, and boom, right there, right? They could be in and out of the trade in less than 24 hours for 13%. Those are the types of trades that a person can, you know, basically make a living off of, right? Just real simple stuff like that. So pretty interesting stuff. If we jump over to, and I'm going to go over Bitcoin in just a second, but if we do take a look over at the stock market has had a horrendous couple of days, right? It actually did test this double tops neckline and then of course collapsed by almost 5% on the US 100. But if you look at what's happening right now, we're getting this big tail which says that buyers are stepping up and buying up the US 100 right now. Basically came down here and tested demand. So that's a good sign, right? We want to see that continue. We want to see that candle close like that because, of course, regardless to what everybody likes to, not everybody, but regardless to what a lot of the Bitcoin maxis like to say, Bitcoin is not a store of value. Bitcoin is actually a speculative asset. This has been proven time and time again. Every time the stock market has a rough day, Bitcoin also tends to have a rough day with it. Unfortunately, Bitcoin tends to overreact. So yesterday, for example, the market dropped on the US 100 by about 3%. Bitcoin went down over 4%, and then alts overreacted Bitcoin. So it's like a domino effect. So, you know, again, I'm not knocking Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm simply saying, like, know what you're trading. Bitcoin is not a store of value. It does not behave like a store of value. And quite frankly, I don't know that you want it to behave like a store of value because gold is an accepted store of value and it's the same price today that it was 10 years ago, right? Literally, you can go look at a chart on gold. It's the same price in 2021 that it was in 2011. So I don't think anybody, you know, who's excited about Bitcoin wants Bitcoin to be the same price in 10 years it is today. What people want is they want to buy Bitcoin, they want Bitcoin to go up, and they want to make US dollars on it. In almost every case, that's what people are really after, is they want to make fiat. They will come out and talk big about all this stuff, about short the banks and all this, which is funny because the banks are heavily involved in crypto now, right? But at the end of the day, they're just trying to accumulate fiat. It's fine. Speculative assets. Speculate on them if you want to, right? I certainly do, right? But this did drop, so we want to keep an eye on this because, of course, if it can't maintain this, bounce, then, things could get really bloody and really nasty for Bitcoin. The US 500, of course, also a really rough couple of days, right? If we take a look at this from yesterday until today, it dropped almost 3%. It's pulling back. One thing that I love about this chart is look where it's pulling back at. If we draw a range on here, it basically came down, right, and tested. I know that it's got an upward sloping top, but it's got a flat support on bottom. It basically came down and tested the bottom of this range, and so not ready to get super bearish on this yet, right, unless it breaks out of this range. Now if it breaks and closes underneath this box, yeah, that's not good. We're probably going to start making our way back down toward this old range back here, right? So the US 500 looks like the bulls are trying to step up. The US 30, same deal, right? Had this range, had this really nice breakout, but last couple of days been pretty brutal, right? From yesterday's close into today's low was 1.89%. From yesterday's open to today, 2.07%. From yesterday's high, nearly 3%. But it's actually not all that bearish just yet because basically what it's done is it's come down and it's testing this range. And this could very easily pull back up, close right on top of this, and that would actually be a bullish retest, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing in the stock market. Keep it real simple, keep it to price action, and that tends to work best for me, all right? So good stuff there. Let's jump over to Bitcoin. All right, so first things first on Bitcoin, I was actually bullish on Bitcoin over the weekend with one caveat. I said in my Facebook group, I do not trust weekend price action, and yesterday is exactly why I don't, right? It looked really good. It has this double hidden bullish divergence on the weekly chart, which makes it look like it wants to go up, right? It's been able to get back up into our range on our 4-hour chart, right? Up here in supply. It looked like it was going to chop through it. Again, the stock market had a rough day yesterday and all this came crashing back down. So on Bitcoin, what I'm watching on the weekly chart, I don't see anything that's bullish or bearish right now. I'm pretty neutral there, right? We do have that double hidden bullish divergence, but last week didn't close all that strong. So I'm waiting to see, will it take out this last high? In which case I think we got quite a bit more upside to go. Or will it take out this low? In which case I think it's very likely that this bull market is actually coming to an end, because that would also mean we broke our 19-week moving average, which is the line in the sand for bull markets, right? Again and again, we test that thing and we'll move up off of it in a bull market. You can see back here in 2019 when we fell underneath it, that's when the pain really started. You can see back here in 2017, same thing, moved underneath it, and that was a signal that the bear market had kicked off. And we could go back further and it's the same deal, but this is a Coinbase chart. It only goes back to 2015, all right? So that's the weekly chart. On the 3-day chart, I have some concerns here, right? My main concern, right, price action is the same as weekly, same high, same low, all that. But the RSI is starting to turn back down, which we do not want to see. We do not want to see this turn back down inside this box. Going to wait for this 3-day candle to close, which is still about a day and a half away, and we'll see where we are at that point. If it does close inside the box, that's going to make me a little bit nervous because this is a wonky double top. I don't put a lot of faith in double tops unless they're tops of moves. This is more at the bottom of a move, but it is an M, so it's something to pay attention to. And the fact that it's trying to get back down in that box, if it closes inside of it, that's not normal for a bull market. If we go back in time to 2017, for example, we can see that normally what would happen, RSI would dip into the box and then it would have a strong move out of that box. Buyers were sitting there waiting to buy up Bitcoin, and we'd see these big moves off of. These were basically corrections, right? For example, this one came down to around 800 or so, then it pumped up over 50%. This one came down to around 1,000 or so, and then it pumped all the way up to 3,000. This one came down to around 1,800 on this pullback, and then pumped all the way up to 5,000. This one came down to around 3,000 or so, and then it pumped all the way up to 20 grand, right? On the flip side, in 2019, when we broke into it, came out of it, and then dipped back into it, that was it, right? The run was over. We had another little dead cat bounce, but then the bleeding really started. So we do not want this to close inside that bear market box. We really want to see this turn up and move north. All right. On the daily chart, we have a 50 moving average here. One thing that's concerning about this daily chart is that 50 moving average is not acting as support. It's not being respected at all. Prices just chopping up and down through it. In bull markets, we want to see that act as support like it did back here in March, like it did back here in January. When it stops acting as support and price starts chopping through it, like back here in 2019, you can see what comes next, right? It's kind of a sign that the momentum, the bulls have lost control, and it's not what you want to see, right? So again, we need to get back over that 50 moving average. Sooner the better, right? Because we're starting to be in danger of falling out of the bottom of this channel. On a 4-hour chart, same zone up here that I've been watching now for several weeks, right? We need to get through this zone, we need to cut above it and turn this supply into demand so that Bitcoin can move higher. If it can't get through that zone, then again, it's just a sign that Bitcoin is weak. When we look at volume, we're seeing a lot more selling volume than we are buying volume, so that's a little bit concerning, right? Most of these bigger candles are in fact red. The other thing that's concerning is we are beneath both the 4-hour 50 moving average and the 4-hour 200 moving average, and it's getting ready to put in another death cross if price doesn't move up, right? Now we had a death cross back here, right? Popped right back above, and now this looks like another death cross. Why is that concerning? Because what I've noticed is when these things come down, come up and then come back down, you can kind of see what that looks like, right? You usually get a lot more downside after that. It's also sitting down right in the middle of this volume here. So we do have this volume gap sitting all the way down here around 50K. And same deal, if we start moving down and we take out this level back here, that's going to lead me to believe that, you know, the bull market is over. Now, all that being said, a lot of altcoins still look pretty good, especially versus Bitcoin. So I kind of view this as, you know, a sit and wait type of scenario. I don't want to get overly bearish here. I also don't want to start putting in a lot of fresh money into the market. I did take a little bit off the stack late last week. Things looked pretty parabolic in some of the altcoins, so I did cash out, you know, small percentages of some of my alts. For example, I actually sold some of my Ethereum finally. And I had sold some back around like 1800 too, and around 2500. So I've been taking small pieces off my Ethereum stack all along. But yeah, you know, overall, I just think it's kind of a sit and wait deal. One thing about the stock market that's worth noting, if you haven't seen me post this on social media, is the NASDAQ did indeed just hit the top of a 20-year channel, okay? Look at this. Channel started back in 2000, rode along the bottom for 5 or 6 years, and we did just tag it in this last candle, and then again in this candle, and we can see that it's having trouble cutting through that. I don't think this is a reason to panic. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to shoot to the bottom of this channel. I mean, we rode along the bottom for 5 or 6 years. There's nothing that says we can't ride along the top for a period of time as well. It's just something to keep in mind. So yeah, I've talked kind of fast today because I had a lot of information to cover and I wanted to do it in a timely manner. But overall, you know, I think Bitcoin is in the same place it's been. I think one thing people need to do, and I'm just going to say this and people won't love it, but it's reality. You got to pump your brakes just a little bit on Bitcoin and let it pick a direction. Because, you know, people are sitting here and a lot of people are still super, super bullish on Bitcoin, and that's fine. But don't forget that Bitcoin right now is literally sitting at the same price it was way back in February. So we've now been ranging for 3 months, which means that bulls have lost the momentum. I'm not saying one side, like the bears have total control, because they certainly don't. But you do need to be aware that, you know, the momentum is basically even right now between these two camps, right? We've got to wait for one camp to start winning the battle, and then we can go join that camp. Right? That's what you got to do with markets, is you got to think of them like a battlefield, right? You have the bulls on one side, you have the bears on the other side, and they're fighting this battle. And once one side starts to look like they're winning, in other words, to break out of a range, right? That's the side that we want to jump in and join the battle with. You know, we want to be fair weather fans or whatever, right? What we don't want to do is say, well, you know, I'm going to join this side no matter what, because then you end up getting slaughtered if it's the wrong side, okay? So anyway, that's my outlook on Bitcoin. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, OMG, definitely one that I've been holding for a long time. I would say it's worth researching, not investing in. That's up to you, but worth researching. EOS is another one worth researching, especially with this news that they're going to be launching their own cryptocurrency exchange, because we have seen these exchange tokens go up really big. And by the way, just as a side note, guys, like Ethereum is up to around $4,000. That's really, you know, a lot of that's a result of Uniswap using the ERC20 stuff, right? and using the Ethereum for the fees and all that kind of stuff, that pushed the demand up. Same thing with BNB. BNB is up because of the Binance Smart Chain, right? So when you have coins that have real world use cases, those coins tend to do very, very well. And EOS is about to get a real world use case. OMG is about to get a real world use case. In fact, it already has one. Bitfinex actually integrated it last year with their Tether chain, right? I'm not exactly sure the terminology, but basically they integrated last year where you can send Tether with it. And eventually I think a lot of these other exchanges will probably implement it as well. So just some things, to look at. And like everything else, if the market goes to crap and it turns into a bear market, then I would expect everything to kind of, get nasty with it, but worth looking at. All right. All that being said, please remember I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, which means that I've been wrong before. I will be wrong again. That is the only thing I can guarantee. For that reason, you should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor for making any investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, or precious metals. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And again, don't forget to check the description for a link where you can join Patreon for just $7 a month. As always, this is James with Crypto Common Sense, reminding you to please trade safe.